Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brooke. If you are new here, welcome. This is a channel where I talk about houseplants and DIYs on my shorts. So if you haven't, take a minute and subscribe to my channel. That way you can be up to date on all my latest videos. If you aren't new here and are a recurring viewer, welcome back. Thank you so much again for watching. Today I wanted to talk about what I do when I go on vacation. So I get asked a lot, like, what do you do with your plants while you're away, or what happens to them? Because I think it's a common misconception that your plants need attention 24/7 and you can't leave them. Plants are actually a lower maintenance than most people think, I think. It is difficult to leave plants for a 7-day period. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Any more than that, and I can't give advice on. I have seen people who have left for 30 days with plants, and at that point, you need to hire someone, ask a friend, family member, cat to come watch your plants. This is what I do when I'm leaving for a 7-day period. We just came back from a vacation recently, and I left my plants. Now, I have left my plants many times while I'm away, and I currently own about 70 plus houseplants, but at one point I had over 100 houseplants. And so it can get a little tricky when you're dealing with a large amount of plants, like if you own a large amount of plants like that. Here is my first tip: watering. So again, common misconception is that your plants are all on the same watering schedule and you water them all on the same day. Not true. So when you're going on vacation though, I try to get them on the same watering schedule. So what I do is I wait until the last day and before I leave, and I will water all of my plants at the same time. Now, does every plant need watered at that point? No. I will leave the plants that don't need to be watered, and I will water all of the rest of my plants. What happens if you have a plant that it needs water but doesn't need water, and you know it's going to be like dry by the time you get back? I had this happen with my Jose Bono when I left. It was at the point where it didn't need to be watered. If I watered it, I felt like I was going to be overwatering it, but I knew at one point during my vacation, like in the middle of it, it was probably going to be dry cat. Anyways, so I decided to leave it. And when I came home, the plant unfortunately had dropped 3 leaves. All 3 leaves had yellowed, and it was drooping and really unhappy. I have found that those plants do not like to dry out like your other philodendron. So that was a bummer and will happen. My best, tip is just water what plants need to be watered right before you leave. And then those that are in between, you can take a chance. You can either water them or you can wait until you're back. Now, if you do have a plant like the Jose Bono that you know needs water, but like doesn't need water at the same time, you could try using the self-watering sticks. So there are globes, which I'm not really a fan of. I haven't tried them, but I don't really want to. But what I have done in the past is use self-watering sticks. So these are little terracotta stakes that you put into your plant, and they have a pipe or whatever on the other, like coming out of it, to go into a jar of water that you place next to your plant. And so it soaks up the water just like a self-watering planter. Sorry, the cat is making me pet it while I'm speaking. So you fill the jar with water and your plant can soak up whatever it needs, like whenever. But I don't feel like they always work. I had several of them for my Calathea collection. I didn't want to leave those to chance when we were away. And so I would put these self-watering sticks in them. And it worked half the time, and the other half of the time, they didn't work. What I found was with the terracotta ones, you have to soak them, which it says on the instructions, for a certain amount of time. And then after that, you fill them with water, cap them off, and then stick them in your plant soil. And that is then, it's soaking up the water by that terracotta. But the terracotta would dry out. So what I found is you had to fill it with water underwater and then place the cap on underwater and get all of the air bubbles out of the cap before you pulled it out of the water. And so it was just not ideal. It wasn't worth it to me. And so I stopped using them, threw them all away actually, because I wish I had one to show, but I got rid of them. I just felt like it wasn't worth it. Now, I do have a self-watering planter on my Calathea orbifolia, which I shared a DIY for it on my shorts. So if you are worried about a plant, like leaving a plant and it needing water while you're gone, you could always try a self-watering planter. Now that would require you to replant the entire plant into the new pot before you leave. So maybe that's not ideal, but there are self-watering planters that you can purchase straight out of the box, already set up for this, that you don't have to create. If you are worried, that is my other option. So tip number one is water right before you leave. Also, going along with the watering is to make sure you change out your propagation vessels, whatever you have your propagations, if they're in water, because I don't remember to change my water out. I will be honest. So vacation is a perfect time to change it. So here's your reminder, go change your water propagations. Tip number two is to open your windows, turn on your humidifiers or grow lights. So before you leave, I would make sure to set your grow lights up on a timer, set your humidifier up on a timer, and open your windows, because you don't want to leave for a 7-day period without your grow lights on or windows open. Your plant will go into shock, I'm sure, and be like, where'd the light go? And you would be surprised at how affected your plants can be if they're so used to sitting under grow lights for a 7-day period, just turning those off. So if you don't already, I use the Gov Smart wireless plugs or Wi-Fi plugs, and they work great. So I have them for my setup in here. They're connected to my Burina grow lights and my Gov humidifier. And then I have them in my living room for my Sansi grow light, in my office for all of that. So they're great. I set them up from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. If you don't have grow lights, make sure to open up your windows. For humidifiers, if you don't already, make sure to set your humidifiers up on a timer. If you don't have humidifiers and you're worried about humidity, what you can try to do is group your plants together. Every plant has like a little humidity system that it puts off. And by grouping them together, it can it can heighten the levels. It can make the levels higher. Does that work great? No, you'd have to have a lot of plants. However, you can try it. You can also try using a pebble tray. So just get a flat plastic tray, fill it with water, and put some rocks in it. I would not fill the water line all the way over the rocks, just right below, so that your plant isn't soaking up any of that water and watering itself. But then you just set your plants on the tray and it slowly releases, the water evaporates and creates that humidity that your plants love. Again, this isn't like a solid solution for, a lot of humidity, but it could help out some. So you can try that grouping if you don't have a humidifier and turning on a humidifier. Now, my hack is if you don't want to go out and purchase a humidifier, which I have the GovSmart humidifier, which I said, and love it. It's really great. It's a 6 liter. It is smaller. I know some plant people probably won't love that. They want something larger that they don't have to fill up often. But what's great about it is you can set it up on a timer. You can set the humidity rate that it pushes out. It's a really great smart humidifier. I have really enjoyed it. I've had it for about a month now, and it's worked out great. So I will link that product below if you are interested in getting a humidifier that you don't have to worry about turning on and off every day. And it reminds you when the water is low. And so I love that. It will send you a text alert or an app alert, and it will let you know, like, hey, you need to go fill your water. But it's been really awesome. Maybe I'll show a screenshot of that as well, because it's simple to use. Again, I have all the Gov smart plugs. And so I just already had the app downloaded and saw that they had a smart humidifier and decided to purchase it instead of going out and finding another smart humidifier that I'd have to download another app for. But it has been great. So you can go check that out. I also mentioned this in my May favorites. So check out that video if you haven't. So if you don't have a humidifier or you don't have one like that large that you want, I have a hack. What I would do is I have purchased just, essential oil diffusers from Walmart, Target, Amazon, wherever you want to buy them from. And I put them next to my calathea when we would leave. And it actually worked, that the little humidifier or essential oil diffuser would last for about 3 days. And so that was enough for my calathea. They were fine. But I had it on like every day that I was home. And so for a really long time, for like a couple of years, that's all I would have as my calathea, this little humidifier. It worked great. Honestly, my calathea didn't like shrivel up or get brown edges as often because I grouped them together. I put that humidifier there, and so it created its own little system and worked out well. you don't want to go purchase a huge humidifier or an expensive one, you can try that out for yourself if you're just like doing a couple little plants and you need humidity for a couple little plants. That is my tip number 2. Open your windows, turn on your lights, turn on your humidifier, and if you don't, group them together, put a pebble tray underneath of them, try that out. Tip number 3 is if you actually have someone watching your plants. So when I left my 100 plus health plants, I actually had someone watching them at one point because it was a lot of plants and there were so many that I knew I wasn't going to get them all watered the day before I left. And so I wanted someone to watch them, and I had a great friend who was willing to do that. But she didn't know about plants. And so this is my tip to you: if you get someone, friend, family, to come watch your plants for vacation who don't know anything about them, I labeled them. So I color coordinated them by using garage sale stickers and just placed them on the different plants and then wrote notes for what each of the colors meant. So I specifically placed sticky notes on or stickers on all of my calathea. And I said, don't let the soil dry out, water with filtered water, and left that instruction. I also had a plant, my Thermatophyllum, which I found out a couple days before leaving for my vacation, like forever ago, that it had thrips. And so I isolated it, which is another tip that I'll talk about after this. I isolated it, and then I had her spray it every other day that we were gone. So she sprayed it 3 times with my Jack's Dead Bug Brew, or now I don't know if it's called insecticidal soap, but I had her spray that while I was gone. And then I also left sticky notes on plants that I didn't water before I left. So it was like my Jose Bono, where I could have watered them, but possibly overwatered. But I knew that they would need water before I left. So I went ahead and left a sticky note on them and instructed that if the soil is completely dry, to water them. Now, some people, again, who don't own plants, don't know what soil dry means, So I did leave a water gauge, whatever, so that she could stick into the plant and check if it's dry and then it needs watered. If it's moist, it doesn't need watered. I wouldn't suggest the water meters for your everyday watering. I personally don't think that they work. But if you are leaving your plants and it's someone who doesn't know much about plants, it's always like a helpful tip to them, like gives them, something to gauge it off of. That's my tip to you: is leave detailed instructions, try labeling your plants. If you have a group of plants that you, again, are worried about or need watered, pull them out. Make sure that they still have light, but you can pull them out and group them together. That way it helps the person know, like you're not saying a golden pothos or, a Monstera albo or whatever. And this person's like, what are these? And having to Google them. So you can pull them out and place them in an area with instructions so that that person can easily see and identify what plant needs what. So that is my 3rd tip: is leave instructions for those watching your plants. My 4th and final tip is to check for pests. The worst thing that you can do is come home to a plant infestation, a pest infestation. So yes, I go through and I check all of my plants before I leave. I also just spray them down. You can spray them down with neem oil as a preventative. You can spray them down with Jack's Dead Bug Brew or whatever other insecticidal soap and deterrent you like to use. So I would check and pull plants out. If you think that they have a pest or you see a pest, pull them out. Leave them in an isolated area while you're away. That way they're not infesting the rest of your plants while you're gone, because again, a 7-day period is a long amount of time, but a short amount of time for pests. So much damage can happen when you're gone like that. So I would pull the plant away, spray it down, treat it before you leave, and then again, isolate it, leave it alone, and come back to it when you're back. That is my final tip. I guess another tip is to make sure not to repot, not repot propagations before you leave. So if you are propagating in water and you decide hey, I'm going to pot this up before I leave, your plant requires more water when you do that. When you transfer a propagation from water into soil, it's going to require more consistent waterings, and it won't like to dry out. And so if you leave that when you're away and come back and it's dry, you could lose some of the cuttings. And so I would just pause on all repottings of propagation, specifically in water, because I think that they have such a harder time transferring to soil or need so much more when you transfer them to soil. So I would just wait on propagations until you get back. So those were my when you travel with plants or when you're traveling and leaving your plants tips. Do you have any other tips that I didn't mention for when you travel with plants? Let me know in the comments. And if you are traveling, safe travels, happy travels. It's summertime, so I know a lot of us are going on vacation and doing things, and you don't want to worry about your plants. So don't worry about them. They will survive. Again, like my Jose Bono, you might come home to a leaf missing or, died, whatever, but such is life. It will be fine. It will grow back. So enjoy your vacation. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to see more.